Ever since I looked at Vex's skill tree and saw that she had melee damage bonuses and even some cool melee perks, I knew I wanted to make a build around her. Coming off of Borderlands 3 as an Amara main, being a siren that can also do melee damage was something I was really looking forward to. And on top of all of that, this build has also received some buffs recently. I've been working on this build for quite a while and I'm very excited to show it off to you all. As you can see from the gameplay, I am literally not using a gun. If you want to use a gun, you can, but I am just running around just with the normal melee and all the other benefits that the skill tree does provide. Right off the bat, I know you all are going to ask, is this decent for bossing? And while it's not going to be the instant boss melts that you see some other builds can do, it actually can do a decent amount of damage. Obviously, with this being only melee, it is going to make flying targets a little bit more difficult, but if you choose to actually use a gun, unlike me in this video, it won't be that big of a deal. This is definitely a fun build and one I didn't expect to work as well as it does, and if you really enjoy melee builds, I would definitely give this one a shot. I'm going to explain how everything works in this video, but if you would like a full written guide, I will have a Mobalytics link down below and you can read about it over there as I go along in the video. And finally, if you do enjoy or learn anything new, consider doing all the normal YouTube stuff. All of the support really does go a long way and I truly appreciate it. But without further ado, let's jump into an insanely fun Vex melee build. All right, starting with the skill tree, this is mainly going to be a blue Vex skill tree with some points in red and a little in green, but we're going to be running the Dead Ringer Axe skill so we can spawn Reapers, and then we're also going to be running the Hellish Harvest to basically give them the augment to spin around and do some damage, and then Grim Reapers so we can just spawn a Grim Reaper just to do even more damage with the status effect. So essentially you could just pop your axe skill, make a bunch of Reapers, they're gonna just do damage, and then you can spawn this Grim Reaper here, which can again just kind of suck enemies with the status effect. But they're going to do these spin attacks, constantly killing off of that, constantly doing a bunch of damage, and this is just mainly going to be axe skill. So these can do melee damage, and then you can also do melee damage, and that's a little preview of another skill we'll get to in a second. And jumping back into the skills, obviously we're going to mainly be focused on melee damage, so we're going to be taking Fell Inscriptions to get more melee damage while also getting maximum health capacity. This does apply to us and our minions, which is great. We're also going to be taking Sanguine Fiend, so this is going to be a kill skill, so us and our minions will restore health whenever you get a kill. This is very, very good for mobbing, not only for you, but for your minions as well. And then moving down, we're going to be taking Grave Fiends. So this is going to grant us increased damage whenever we kill an enemy. This also applies to our minions. It can stack up to 3 times. So this is just more melee damage. If you want to take things like Cursed Blade and Extra Curse, since obviously these do have melee benefits, you can, but in all honesty, from my testing and playing, I prefer taking Sanguine Fiends and just more damage right here. Just having that health for survivability is just super nice, the extra damage. But if you want to take Cursed Blade, again, I'm not really using a weapon, so this doesn't really affect much, but it can make it so your minions can proc it with Extra Curse. So if you would like to take that, you totally can. If you want to swap that around, it's totally up to you. I honestly just prefer this setup. Now, next up, we're going to be taking Recurrence. So whenever we deal gun damage or melee damage, we get stacks of Recurrence. This will increase our gun damage and melee damage alongside our minions. So basically, this is going to be stacked up to 50 times. We're just going to have melee damage. This also got buffed to grant more melee damage per stack. So this is very, very good. The gun damage is also very good once we get to our specialization. We're then going to be taking Reverberations. So melee damage that we do or our minions do can actually apply incendiary damage. It's a 50% chance, but it's 150% of the initial damage dealt. So obviously this is just more melee damage, and it's a 50% chance, so it happens pretty often, especially with the Reapers just constantly hitting over and over again. Very, very good skill. And then we're going to be taking Horror Specs. So this is what you saw earlier. So this is a melee override. So it's going to make it so you could throw phase daggers out every 18 seconds. If you did get a kill, it will actually reset the cooldown. But the main thing is that we're also going to be taking Pincushion here. So the Horror Specs can now throw 5 phase daggers from both hands. And then if you get a kill, it will only restore 33% of the cooldown back instead of just the whole cooldown. So these can do a ton of damage, which is why you see my class mod also have points invested into it. We'll get to the class mod a little bit later, but this alone already can just do so much damage. I got my cooldown back here, and as you see, if we throw our Pincushion daggers out, we do 368,000, and that, I don't even think they all hit right there. So I mean, that is just a ton of damage just throwing a melee, which is just crazy strong. and they are also a ton of fun to use. And again, getting kills will restore the cooldown, so you can actually spam these a lot in mobbing scenarios. Now for our other skills, we're going to be heading over to the red tree, and we're going to be taking things like blood is magic, so our actual skill damage is increased by 40% the fuller our health is. This is great paired with things like singly fiends, since we're always really going to be at max health because we're constantly healing off of the kills. So now our reapers can just do a lot more damage, which is great. Then I'm going to be taking 3 in hasty fiends, so us and our minions will actually increase movement speed and damage reduction. This is just nice for survivability. Also, your reapers can get to enemies faster, which is great. Then 2 points in overprotective, so whenever we get a kill, Vex and our minions will get an overshield. This again kind of helps out survivability. We're mainly just using it to get down towards the bottom, but overshields are always nice. And then claw and bang here, so Vex and minions gain an increased melee damage and ordnance damage. Ordnance damage kind of being whatever here, but the 40% melee damage on top of everything else in the blue tree is obviously very good. And then for the final thing in the green tree, I like to take 3 points in guns and needles because we will be playing into a rep kit quite a lot. Since this is a kill skill, so it's going to restore our rep kit cooldown 21% per kill. Since this is a very killing focused build, you're going to be able to get your rep kit back extremely fast, and we'll talk more about a rep kit here in a second. Now if we jump over into specializations, this is where the build really can come into play. So first off, you're going to want to invest literally everything into running here to get more melee damage and movement speed, which is just great. But you want to put 10 in sharpshooter to get down to daredevil. Daredevil's going to give you actual cooldown rate, so you can spam reapers more. And then you're going to want to take Im's gun, so actual damage can now benefit from gun damage, which is just great. Now your reapers could do more damage based on gun damage. And this is very strong also because we could take bare arms in the runner skill tree, so melee damage now also benefits from gun damage. And the reason that's very good is because if you remember our skill over here, recurrence, this is going to make it so we get gun damage stacked up alongside the melee damage. So this is essentially giving us the melee damage stack alongside 50% of that gun damage stack is also granting us melee damage and actual damage, so reaper damage as well. Very good pairing these two together. And then we also take a honed mind, so your axe skills have a chance to critically hit, and then the critical hits do 50% more damage. This is great for some extra damage. In all honesty, if you want to take something like now with caffeine over things like a honed mind just to spam more reapers if they ever run out, you totally could. But in all honesty, your reapers are going to stay up forever with all the health that you're getting from Hellish Harvest and also singly fiends here, so you don't really need to get the cooldown back extremely quick, but obviously that's still there if you would like to. Now the main specialization, as you probably see, is going to be Groundbreaker. So this makes it so all non-melee attacks and slam damage are stored, and then if you do a melee attack, you're basically going to do that as bonus kinetic melee damage. So what is happening is that these reapers that are going to do a ton of damage are basically stacking up Groundbreaker, and then you can throw your melee. Actually your normal melee is the only thing that can proc it. So your normal melee, as you see, we do, I don't know, it was like 3 million or some damage right there. So basically you keep stacking this up, you're going to proc it, and then you can start just doing a ton of melee damage if I can actually get a Groundbreaker proc here. But I mean, as you see, like, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Now I have ran this build without Groundbreaker, and it still can perform pretty well. Obviously it's not going to be doing as good, especially when it comes to bossing, but in most cases in mobbing scenarios, it can still get the job done. It's going to take a little bit longer, don't get me wrong, but I know a lot of people don't want to run Groundbreaker currently. But if you do have it unlocked and you don't really mind running it, definitely put it on. It's what makes the build extremely fluid. It's what makes it easy to get those one-hit kills, do a ton of boss damage, and it is just so good. But once again, if you don't want to run it, you can basically take everything else in this build that I've already shown off, and it can still get the job done. It definitely is just going to take a little longer. But that's it for the specializations. Let's actually jump into the gear now and talk about how this is also going to help out, because this does play a pretty important part as well. So for our class mod, as you see, I'm just running a blue class mod, but this is basically giving me points in horror specs, which is what I was looking out for. This also gives melee damage, which is very nice, but I'm trying to increase the damage bonus of horror specs like crazy, because again, these can do so much damage. I wish I could get +5 in it just to see how much damage they can do, but I haven't found one that can do it. There are other class mods like the Illusionist, which can turn your Reapers into badasses, and I'm pretty sure you can get points in things like Ancient Rites in here, which could be good if you want to kind of play into this side, move some skill points, you know, elsewhere. But in all honesty, I just kind of prefer running this. Also haven't gotten Illusionist with that role quite yet, but having the increase in the horror specs damage is nice. But if you get things with increased melee damage or color descriptions, just anything of the sort, I mean, even a thing with claw and bang to get even more melee damage, you just want something with a melee damage decrease, and you will be good to go. Now for the rep kit, since we are going to be kind of playing into rep kits, I definitely would recommend trying to get one with hard hitter. This is going to give you 40% more melee damage for 8 seconds. As you see, I do have one with the order, so it does have 2 charges. So again, pairing that with the Incarnate skill, so basically getting kills is going to restore your rep kit cooldown. You have 2 charges. This is going to be very, very good to use. I do also have tank on it, so I can get reduced damage taken, which is great. So basically I can pop a rep kit, I heal, I take 50% less damage, I do 40% more melee damage, and I can use this all the time, which is just very, very nice. If you have a legendary like the triple bypass with the hard hitter on it, so you can just have 3 charges of hard hitter, that's also very good, but I also don't have one of those either, so this is kind of just my makeshift for it. But in all honesty, this is still very good, and I really like the tink on it because of the damage reduction. Now for the ordnance here, I do run the fish slap, or the slippy. I always call it the fish slap because of Borderlands 3, but this is basically just a grenade that will just deal melee damage now. So obviously we're buffing our melee damage up, so now we can just throw melee damage essentially. This is great. It's even, you know, very good for like flying enemy stuff because you can just throw it at them. Then for our shield, we're going to be running the heavyweight. So this has the perk bare knuckles, so whenever we get a melee hit, it's going to consume an armor segment that grants us 100% melee damage, and then when our armor shield's empty, we just get 50% melee damage. So essentially we just get more melee damage with the shield, which is great. You can play into things with its perks like knockback and flanking, so when you don't have armor segments, you'll get bonuses, which is great. But again, that's kind of up to you. The main thing is bare knuckles, you just are going to get more melee damage because you're going to be constantly meleeing all the time. Then for our enhancement, nothing really matters here other than the gun damage trait. So since we can get 25% increased gun damage, this will play back into our specializations over here to play into Amara gun and bare arms. So we could just get more action skill and melee damage. And that's pretty much it for the gear. Again, as you see, I don't really have weapons. If you want to run weapons, you can, but I just kind of use this to show off that you don't need to. Post that in your rest here. I did want to mention really quick, if you don't run weapons, you are going to be bound to kinetic, which means your melee damage will be kinetic. And the reason I like to do this is that kinetic is just neutral to everything. You're going to get the same amount of damage no matter if it's a health bar, shield bar, or an armor bar. However, if you do want to run weapons, you can take an incendiary, shock, and corrosive one and swap to it whenever you are facing that certain health bar, because Vex will get bound to the element of the weapon she is holding and make the melee damage also do that type of damage. So if you come across a shield boss, swap to a shock weapon, now your melee does shock, you will get more damage. However, if you don't want to worry about any of it and don't run a weapon, you will be bound to kinetic, and you could just have neutral damage everywhere in the game. If you want more damage with more work, do it the other way, or if you just don't want to worry about anything, you can do it the way I'm doing it in the video. For the final thing for firmware, you want to look out for real big fist and action fist. And all honesty, you probably would want 3 action fists over 3 real big fist, but either is going to work totally fine. So 3 real big fists is going to grant more melee damage, more melee damage again, and then whenever you get a melee kill, you will trigger a melee explosion that does 200% melee damage, which is great for ad clear. But in all honesty, the explosion is not like the craziest thing, but with action fist, you're going to get more melee damage, more action skill damage, and then on a melee kill, if you have the 3-piece bonus, your action skill will get even more damage for 8 seconds. So it's kind of up to you on which way you want to go. Both work really well. I just didn't happen to have a 3-piece action fit bonus that I could set up here properly, but I did have 3 real big fists, and that's just what I went with. But again, the melee damage is just the main thing that you're looking out for. Now, if you want to know where to actually get the gear for this build, or basically just the Slippy and the Heavyweight, because that's really the only 2 legendaries you need for this setup. For the Slippy, you're going to farm Shadow Pelt, which you can come right over here to the Cuspid Climb, and Shadow Pelt will be right in here. Shadow Pelt, honestly, is a very annoying boss fight. It's not like it's hard, it's just extremely tedious with the shield that he can keep making, but if you can one-shot him, it's a really easy farm. So that's where Shadow Pelt is, where you can get your Slippy at. And then for the Heavyweight, we're also going to be going over here to the right side of the map. We're going to be going up here to the Wind Spear location, and we're going to be farming the Vile Prototype. This is just a boss that you kind of encounter during one of the campaign missions. You don't really have to go to like a bunker or anything. You just kind of go back through a little area, and a respawn machine will be there. But Vile Prototype is where you can get that from. He can be pretty annoying because you have to shoot crystals off, but other than that, they're both pretty easy to farm, and you can get this gear pretty quickly. And again, this is like really the only 2 main things you need. In all honesty, you also don't need the Slippy. You can run anything. You can run the throwing knife, you can run anything you want to. I just like this because obviously it plays into the build with melee damage, so that's why I go with it. And then for the final part of the build, this is the customization I'm running if you would like to copy it down. Obviously I went for a very aggressive bloody theme look here with Vex. I took the helmet that has like horns on it, since we're kind of focused on, I guess, stabbing people. And then for the body, I just went with the agent because it kind of gives it more of like a tankiness look, which I feel like is what you're kind of going for a melee build. And then for the style, I went for the red right hand, which kind of gives that bloody effect. And then for the primary, tertiary, and secondary, I just went for all the black Bakara here because again, it kind of plays into that blood look, and I really wanted to go for just an aggressive look for Vex. And overall, I think it turned out looking pretty cool. So if you want to make yours look like this, definitely be sure to copy it down. But all right, guys, that's going to do it all for this build. Let me know what y'all think about it down in the comments below. Honestly, I had a ton of fun putting this together. It's also really not that difficult to put together. You can kind of just, again, get a class bot with some skill point increases, some melee damage. The main thing is you just need the transformer shield, and again, if you want to get the Slippy, you can. The rep kit is not that big of a deal. The enhancements are really not that big of a deal. The main thing is you want to get to Groundbreaker, play into all these melee skills on Vex, play into the horror specs. It is a ton of fun. You can do a ton of damage, as you've seen from the gameplay, and you don't even have to use a gun, which I think is the funniest part, because you have a game with a billion guns in it and you're choosing to literally run around with your fists. Anyways, though, that's going to do it all for me. I wish you all the best of luck putting this build together for yourself. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.